Aloha and good afternoon. Thanks for tuning in to this extended live stream. I'm Dylan Encheta in the Hawaii News Now Digital Center. You're looking at some new video just into our newsroom as the manhunt for an armed suspect in the Hamakua area of Hawaii Island is ongoing and active at this hour. Within the last hour, we've learned a lot of new details that we will be sharing with you folks, but as you can see, authorities are combing the area for any sign of this suspect. Here's some of what we know so far. Earlier this morning, there was a chase that weaved through several communities there on Hawaii Island in the Kona area, and that at some point led to a shooting. Officers were involved there. That shooting left one suspect dead. Another fled on foot in the Hamakua area. And at this hour, we can report that police are searching for a 44-year-old suspect, Ronald Kahihi Kolo. This is a look at his mugshot right here. Police say he was tied to a shooting during a domestic incident earlier this week. And so now we can confirm that police are on the hunt for Kahihi Kolo. They believe that he fled on foot on Highway 19 in the lower Kalopa area of the Hamakua district. They say he has a identifying tattoo on his cheek of the word greed. Police say he is to be considered armed and dangerous and no one should approach him. Kahihi Kolo was last seen wearing a plaid shirt and jeans. He's described as being 5 foot 7 inches tall, weighing 215 pounds. Again, if you see him in the area, you are urged to call police and not approach him. Police are also asking residents to avoid the area where the shooting happened in Kona. Both lanes of Palani Road between Henry Street and Queen Ka'ahumanu Highway are closed at this time. This was some video we got in earlier this morning. This was one of the first videos from the scene there over on Hawaii Island. But again, it is a very, very active situation as police are still searching for this suspect. Once again, to recap, this is some new video into our newsroom of officers searching the Hamakua area. We are still working to fine-tune the timeline of everything, but we know, again, so far that there was a chase that weaved through several communities. It led to a shooting with police, and it left one suspect dead. The other, Ronald Kahihi Kolo, is on the run. He's 44 years old and has a tattoo on his cheek. So be sure to keep an eye out there if you are on Hawaii Island. Authorities are urging caution if you are in and around the Hamakua coast area. We are carefully tracking all that's going on. We are learning new information every minute here, and we are updating our web stories on Hawaii News Now. It also looks like we are getting in some sound here. We are going to process that and get that posted online as soon as we can. In the meantime, we are going to recap some of your other top stories, including a memorial that happened for the teenager who was hit and killed outside of McKinley High School on her way to school.
Right now, family and friends gathering at the Diamond Head Mortuary. Last month, Yara was in a marked intersection on Kapi'olani Boulevard when she was struck by a pickup truck. The 46-year-old driver fled the scene and eventually turned himself in.
The incident has renewed calls for revamped safety measures along the busy highway, along the busy street, and it also has judicial leaders stepping up enforcement efforts on unlicensed drivers. Now, a short time ago, we spoke to some loved ones there at the memorial.
I was steps away from the sidewalk, and she was pretty much in the middle of the crosswalk when she got hit.
What went through your mind then?
All I could do was scream. My sister, Sarah, that's all I kept screaming.
How would you want your sister to be remembered?
Kind and loving. Kind and loving, and always forgiving.
The city was talking about installing lights there today. How did you react to that?
A little too late. They had to use my daughter as an example for now to do something about it. It's sad that it had to take my daughter's life for them to start moving. We talk about money, but can you put a price to a life? You can't put a price to a life. I think if it was in the other way around, it was their child or their family member, I think it would have been moved faster. That's all I think.
Once again, the emotions are still very raw for the family of Sarah Yara, who was hit and killed in that crosswalk on her way to class over at McKinley High School. Our team is there gathering some images from this memorial service, and we will bring you more on that in later editions of Hawaii News Now. We also have another big story happening today. The Ewa Beach man accused of shooting at his neighbor appeared in court this morning.
That's right. 38-year-old Maynard Milan appeared virtually before a judge this morning. He's been charged with attempted murder and firearm offenses. Police say Milan barged into his neighbor's apartment in Ewa Beach with a gun Tuesday night and shot 3 men, leaving one of them in the intensive care unit. His bail is set at $1 million.
A recent string of grounded boats off Maui shorelines is stirring up some tension over on the Valley Isle.
I live right here and all these boats come in every single day. You should have known better.
Lahaina area residents say they've been complaining to the DLNR for years that boats moored offshore are a hazard and often run aground during storms. 2 boats broke free from their moorings earlier this week and ended up on the rocks, with at least one confirmed to be now leaking fuel.
The coral reef in front of Mala, that's a popular fishing ground. That's where people go to harvest limu. It's our ice box, and it's been impacted time and time again every time there's a Kona storm. And these boat owners haven't learned their lesson in the past.
One of the boats were pulled out yesterday, but the second one remained firmly grounded. The DLNR says the boats were in a designated mooring area. As for the fuel spill, state officials say they are aware of it, but it's unclear just how much fuel leaked into the ocean. Some people we spoke to said they could see and smell the fuel over 100 yards away from where the boats were. Yesterday, we also learned new details into the damage caused by the yacht that ran aground at Honolulu Bay. The DLNR says 120 coral colonies spanning nearly 20,000 square feet were damaged. The vessel also caused deep trench-like scars on the ocean floor. The narcoal was stuck on the reef for about 2 weeks before it was finally towed out and eventually sank in about 800 feet of water, and that's where it still remains. Well, after a number of deadly or near-fatal traffic incidents around Oahu, prosecutors are pledging to get tougher on unlicensed drivers. Our Daryl Huff reports.
No one knows how many drivers are going without licenses, but we do know that 2 recent fatal crashes are blamed on chronically unlicensed drivers with a history of recklessness. Brennan Kunime is charged with manslaughter for the deaths of Ron and Michelle Hartman in Kahuku, and Mitchell Miyashiro is suspected in the hit-and-run death of Sarah Yara last month.
I was like amazed why this guy is still driving. Amazed why he's not behind bars.
Both drivers avoided jail for their prior offenses because of plea agreements offered by the Honolulu prosecutor's office, apparently because of backlogs in traffic court due to the pandemic's court closures.
There was probably a culture that developed in the traffic court where these kinds of cases were just settled and didn't go to trial or didn't bring about any kind of significant penalty.
House Speaker Scott Saiki said the law already provides jail for repeat unlicensed driving, and after meeting with court officials and prosecutors, he expects it will be used.
You know, Sarah's family should know that I think there will be a reset within the prosecutor's office as well as within the traffic court to be more proactive in dealing with these kinds of cases.
Although it would be up to his office to review driving records before charging, prosecutor Steve Alm has repeatedly refused to be interviewed about plea agreement policy. But in a statement, his office said the department is discussing appropriate sentences for criminal traffic offenses, including driving without a license. We are considering asking for jail time for some repeat offenders. Public defenders say the focus should be on the worst offenders.
Just to have a blanket, this is what the deal is and that's it. For everybody, it's simply not fair. And that's what it'll cause the backlog from that.
Supporters of a crackdown hope that it will actually deter unlicensed driving and free up the courts and prosecutors to focus on the drivers that need to be removed from the road. Reporting from Kalihi, Daryl Huff, Hawaii News Now.
In national news, Congress unanimously passed the COVID Origins Act. It requires the Director of National Intelligence to declassify as much information as possible on the origins of COVID-19. It also seeks any possible links between coronavirus and the Wuhan Institute of Virology. It passed with a resounding 419-0 vote and now awaits the president's signature.
Authorities say a gunman shot and killed 6 people in a rampage at a Jehovah's Witness center in Hamburg, which is Germany's second largest city. As police work to determine a motive, they say the suspected shooter took his own life during the attack. CBS's Tina Kraus reports from London.
Forensic investigators collected evidence at the scene the morning after a gunman opened fire at his former Jehovah's Witnesses congregation in Hamburg. Authorities are still searching for a motive in the attack that left 6 people dead before the gunman apparently took his own life. A woman who was 28 weeks pregnant lost her unborn baby. She was among 8 wounded in the rampage that shocked Germany, where mass shootings are rare. Officers reached the prayer hall as the attack was unfolding. This man, who took video of the scene with his phone, says he heard at least 24 gunshots before a long pause and then one more. A police unit specially trained to deal with rampages and terror attacks were among the first on the scene. Officials said they likely prevented more casualties. Authorities say the suspected gunman was a 35-year-old German national identified only as Philip F., in accordance with rules for naming suspects. Police said he had left the congregation voluntarily, but apparently not on good terms about a year and a half ago. Tina Kraus, CBS News.
Only our cameras were there as 5 women were booked after they were arrested for allegedly trying to smuggle illegal drugs into correctional facilities on Oahu. The state public safety department says it arrested Annette Garcia, Tiffany Fountain, Michelle Soto, Kimberly Cambra, and Catherine Sani Wong. Investigators say 2 of the cases involved so-called drug paper, where a controlled substance is soaked into a sheet of paper, which is then used for a letter that's mailed to a correctional facility.
We screen all mail that comes into the facility, so our staff were very alert to the different textures of paper, the smell, the oily feel, if something looks a little bit off. That initially started the investigation.
In one case, investigators allege Soto, seen here leaving the sheriff's office after being booked, supplied Canberra with drug paper which was then mailed. The letters and packages were intercepted by corrections officers, and we're told more arrests are expected.
Well, a new report shows the U.S. jobs market remains strong, but the positive news could actually be a double-edged sword, as it could lead to higher interest rates. Willie James Inman reports from Washington.
Restaurants and many other industries continue to bring on more workers. The Labor Department says overall the economy added 311,000 jobs in February, nearly 100,000 more than expected. The unemployment rate rose from a 53-year low of 3.4% to 3.6% as more Americans started searching for work.
They're coming off the sidelines. They're getting back into the job market.
On balance, I think this is a good jobs report, but it may be a little too good for the likes of the Federal Reserve.
Bankrate senior economic analyst Mark Hamrick says that's because the Federal Reserve has been raising interest rates to slow down the job market and economy to ease inflation. Earlier this week, Fed Chairman Jerome Powell told Congress the board will continue to raise rates.
Without price stability, the economy does not work for anyone.
The Fed's strategy is having an effect on certain aspects of the economy, including businesses that lend money. Bank stocks are taking a hit on Wall Street, especially those that offer loans to tech companies, an industry in the midst of layoffs.
I was part of the Meta layoffs this morning.
Alejandra Hernandez lost her job at Meta in November. She's documenting her job search on TikTok, and it hasn't been easy.
I do try to submit around 5 to 10 applications a week.
I'm also a professional event planner, giving tips and advice to everybody getting married.
Hernandez started a wedding content side hustle. She's hoping to expand that business even as she seeks out other opportunities. Willie James Inman, CBS News, Washington.
On Kauai, a public hearing will be held on a proposed utility rate hike. The Kauai Island Utility Cooperative has proposed to raise rates by nearly 9.5%, or about $19 a month for the average customer. It is the first proposed rate increase in over a decade. If approved, the increase could take effect later this year. The hearing will be held on March 28th at 6 p.m. at the King Kaumuali'i Elementary School cafeteria. And now for a look ahead at what's happening this weekend, here's Billy V.
Thank you very much. Coming up this weekend, we talk story with Honolulu Police Department officials on their latest cases and how you can help to get them solved. Our Hawaii News Now film critic does Terry's Take, but this weekend he'll be in our studios to give us an upcoming preview of the Oscars. And Kama'aina Sundays returns to Iolani Palace. The gates open at 8:30. The tours start at 9. This is where Kama'aina can come down for free and enjoy a tour of the palace. They can see what else the Iolani Palace has to offer, as well as there'll be a few food trucks there with items for sale. Kuana Torres Kahele will be performing, and of course I will be your MC. There'll be lots of activities for everyone. Kama'aina Sundays coming up this coming Sunday. Don't forget, this weekend, 7 to 9 a.m., Annalisa Burgos and myself brings you Sunrise Weekends on K5. Now back to more with This Is Now.
Well, a major event is happening this weekend here on Oahu. It is the grand return of the Honolulu Festival. So many things will be happening. For more on this, let's turn it over to our Casey Lund.
And it was a tough 4 years for so many people that absolutely love this annual event, an important event, not just for Hawaii, but really our entire region. And now that it's back in person, they've added a few things, including the Sake and Food Fest, but that is truly just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to all you can see, experience, and hear at the 27th Annual Honolulu Festival. The Gorin Cultural Immersion Group from Sydney, Australia, the Sophia University Cheerleading Squad from Tokyo, and a Sugaro Shamisen Club from Waseda University. Just a small preview of what we enjoyed on Sunrise this morning and a taste of what the Honolulu Festival is all about.
This is the premier cultural festival in Honolulu, and it brings together so many people from all over the world even. And this year we're so excited to have people from groups from Australia and Taiwan and Japan, of course, and even Canada.
Longtime organizers like Lenny Ajima are elated it's back in person, as well as the cultural performers who come here from all over the world.
It's a really big honour, number one, to represent our people and Australian First Nations culture, but also to be part of the festival is really good because it kind of celebrates First Nations culture and cultural practice all around the world.
Today, the festival began with educational tours. Students and festival team members also had the chance to throw Genki balls into the Alawai Canal. The Genki Alawai project claims the small mud balls have microbes that help clean the water in the canal.
It's a wonderful ceremony to begin the festival and begin our effort to contribute back to the community for sustainability.
Festival President Tetsuya Ted Kubo says the festival celebrates all Pacific cultures and even those beyond. But there's no secret, the return of this festival could mean good things for the future of one of Hawaii's top tourism markets.
We are trying to have this festival as a catalyst, and then so that it could bring more tourists and customers.
Well, the entire festival is free this weekend. Don't miss the grand parade and fireworks show over Waikiki to wrap things up on Sunday evening. It truly is too much to mention in this story. So for all the details, the schedule of events, you can go to hawaiinewsnow.com. Look for this story for all the details. Reporting at the Convention Center, I'm Casey Lund. For now, we'll send things back to you.
Let's go ahead and get you your forecast. First of all, Kahului Maui, good morning. Here's what you can expect for the next couple of hours. Clear skies right now. West-southwesterly winds at about 6 miles per hour. Still cold. It's still 65 degrees on the island of Maui. You'll warm up over the next couple of hours. By the time you hit noon, 2 o'clock, you'll get some cloudy skies. Maybe a few sprinkles, but not really that much. So it should be a good day for you. And by the time you get to the overnight hours, you'll have some clouds, but you'll also have some clear skies as well. So it's going to be real nice. Real quickly here, your 7-day forecast. It's going to be nice today through the weekend. Once we get towards Tuesday, though, you'll start to see the winds kind of pick up and change. Possible front coming through on Wednesday. First alert weather, we are seeing this, and we will also be tracking that as we go through the weekend.
Well, tonight's the night the voices of Kapalama gather for the 103rd Annual Kamehameha School Song Contest. This year's theme is about the Hawaiian Paniolo, and Mahealani Richardson introduces us to the junior class. Yeah, yeah.
musicality and Hawaiian language, Kamehameha students must understand the meaning behind their songs. So the 3 junior directors went on a huaka'i, a trip to Waimea, to meet real Paniolo Hawaiian cowboys and learn about their lifestyle and music.
My song is Waimea Cowboy, or also known as Kila Kila Na Rough Riders, and talks more about the Rough Riders of the Waimea community.
1, 2, 3. Taitea Sunaoka is the junior co-ed director.
Song contest is really important to me, as it is, I think, one of the best ways and one of the most unique ways that we can perpetuate our culture and perpetuate our language, Shili's Mele.
Junior men's director Logan Ledesma is getting into the spirit.
Paniolo's lifestyle is very free. So we really try to capture how free range it is and how, giddy up and weehaw.
And Sela Franda will direct the junior women, who'll show the softer side of these rugged cowboys.
This Paniolo was in a relationship and then it went south. So it talks about his journey of love and loss.
From the ranch lands to the stage, it's a Paniolo journey and a ride of a lifetime.
It's a blessing to be able to represent such a special group of people like the Paniolo, and they're a very special part of Hawaii.
Well, Scream 6 is the latest chapter in the horror film franchise, and it hits theaters today. Entertainment Tonight caught up with the cast, and for more on the gory details, here's Nichelle Turner.
Hayden Panettiere returned for her first acting role in 5 years after battling substance abuse and postpartum depression.
After all these years, how did that feel? That fans wanted Kirby back in action?
It felt like coming home. My heart was full. My heart was exploding. I took time off and I didn't know what the first project was going to be. This came along and I was like, absolutely.
The series makes a big change. 2022 Scream stars Melissa Barrera and Breakout Wednesday star Jenna Ortega leave troubled Woodsboro for New York City.
We've seen this world before, and I felt like this was the chance to just kind of take it bigger and better.
But 2 Scream alums we won't be seeing this time around, David Arquette and Nev Campbell. That leaves Courtney Cox as the only OG survivor.
It's Gail's first solo outing in a Scream film, so what did it feel like carrying this legacy torch on your own?
You know what, you're so busy running or chasing Ghostface. Of course, other characters are missed, but it's so great, this movie. They did such a good job.
And of course, we'll have so much more on the next Entertainment Tonight. I'm Nichelle Turner.
Well, in the world of competitive sports, there is one considered a cut above the rest, and it's all about fleecing the competition.
Yeah, and in fact, this competition has happened since 1961. CBS's Ian Lee gives us a look.
In a country like New Zealand, where sheep outnumber people 5 to 1, someone was bound to turn it into a competition. It takes sheer tenacity and perseverance if you want to win here. Only the best sheep shearers gather for the annual Golden Shears competition.
You need to be fit, but in your body physically, but you also need to have the mental strength as well to be able to pull you through.
Competitors race to give 8 sheep a close shave. And the skill isn't for the faint of heart, considered by many as the toughest job on the farm.
It's unbelievable the pressure put on your body and the energy levels you use.
The fleece flies as competitors then separate the wool. Kieran Herbert says she learned her shearing skills from some true legends.
You know, some of them are gone now. You know, they're up in the heavens. They were here, they'll be kicking our butts.
They finish by sweeping the floor of the competition and the wool before someone is crowned the sharpest shearer in the land. Ian Lee, CBS News.
Well, in today's Mothership, our Stephanie Lam talks to the mother of all mothers, Joy Kimura, who has been named Mother of the Year, and she will represent Hawaii at the American Mothers National Convention happening this April in Omaha, Nebraska. Now, the single mother shared the story of how she managed to raise 2 children. One of them went on to become a valedictorian, and another is a rising star athlete. She offers refreshing tips, wisdom, and insights on the best ways to solve common parenthood dilemmas.
Yes, we talking.
today we are talking to the mothers of all mothers. That's because Joy Kimura has recently been named Hawaii Mother of the Year. She was chosen through a national nomination and selection process by American Mothers. Now, the award recipients are women of diverse backgrounds and experiences across the nation, recognized for their work, resilience, and commitment to family and community. So welcome to the Mothership Podcast, Joy. Thanks for being here.
Welcome, Joy. Congratulations, too.
Thanks, Stephanie. Thanks, Noli.
Yeah. Well, first things first, Joy. So it's such a great honor. How do you feel having this title bestowed upon you, Mother of the Year?
You know, a friend of mine nominated me. I didn't know she was going to nominate me. And so at first, what happens is American Mothers Association, they contact everyone who's been nominated. They have us fill out a questionnaire, and later on we do an interview. And I never thought about it afterwards. I didn't hear from them for a couple months. And so I was really shocked and really pleasantly surprised that I actually was given this award.
Yeah, I mean, they must have, there's something special about you, I'm sure. And I read a little bit about your background. You're single mom to a daughter and a son. Are both of them teenagers now, or?
Yes, I have a daughter. She's 19 years old, and I have a son who's 15 and a freshman in high school. And I am a single mom. So that I never, being a single mom, I would never think I would even get an award or an honor like this.
And so what do you do to make everything come together as a single mom? And I mean, you mentioned that it is tough. Can you explain more about that?
Well, all my life, after I've had my children, I've always prioritized them. And it's very challenging. They only have me to rely on. We don't really have family here. And I have to really work extra hard, I think, to be there, to be their support system. And what I think has been helpful to me is I do a 5-year projection for each of my kids. I've done this since they were born, and I have goals for them that I want met, and I do everything possible to have them achieve those goals. So maybe that's a little bit of helicopter parenting, but I needed to do that so I could set the direction for them. And I was really lucky that, I gave them the opportunity to be their individual selves. I never forced them to do anything they didn't want to do. I let them choose their sports and their interests for the most part. But my daughter, I'm so proud of her. She graduated as valedictorian for Kaiser High School, and she got a scholarship, a full ride to the University of Hawaii at Manoa. And the scholarship also pays for 1 year of student exchange. So right now, she's at the University of Massachusetts at Amherst, and she's on the wrestling team, and she's undefeated. So she'll be going, yes, she'll be going to the national tournament in Puerto Rico. And when she was in high school, she was most valuable player for air riflery, for wrestling, and for judo. Her freshman year, she was 4th for states. So she's done really, really well. And my son, as a freshman, he has a 3.9 principals list, and he was on the competition team for Kaiser High School's air rifle team, and they were the state championships this year. They were the state champions this year.
Wow, congratulations. That's so many accolades for your children, and as parents, right? You just want to see that for them. Can you talk about that 5-year plan? That's interesting, isn't that, Steph?
Yes,
what does that look like?
How
do you do that?
I feel like a lot of people want to know, especially after you giving us a brief resume of your children.
Well, I'll just give a couple examples because everybody's hopes and dreams and aspirations for their children are different. But when my daughter was born, and also for my son, it's kind of similar. I knew I wanted them to be able to speak a foreign language. I knew I wanted them to be able to play a musical instrument. And I knew I wanted them to have some expertise in a martial art. So I enrolled both of them in judo. My daughter started when she was 6, My son started when he was 5. My son plays the cello. My daughter plays the violin. My daughter was in the youth symphony when she was in intermediate school, and my daughter graduated with the Global Seal of Biliteracy in Japanese. But my son is still, he's just a freshman, so we'll see. I'm letting him choose his own course as well. I kind of encourage them and I try to steer them in the right direction. But ultimately, I told my son, he's his own person. He doesn't have to choose the same sports as his sister. I let him choose the instrument he wanted to play. But when I was making this 5-year plan, I thought about the skills that would help them as they become adults and as they navigate through their own life. And these are skills: a foreign language, a musical instrument, a martial art. These are all skills that will help them. And it's a skill that nobody can take away. It's a skill that can open doors and give them opportunities. And so when I make this 5-year plan, okay, when they're 5 years old, I reassess, okay, this is what I want for my children. Where are we going to go? And I just set new goals and I plan their activities accordingly.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, that's
makes sense.
It's good to have a direction. It's good to keep yourself on track and your kids on track. And I feel that when you're given too much free rein, you get off track really fast. So it's good that you're a guiding force, in that, even though you say that it's ultimately up to them. Joy, are you strict? Are you what they say, a tiger mom?
Well, I think with my daughter, I was I had really, really good intentions, and I was a little bit over enthusiastic. I don't want to consider myself a tiger mom. I thought about it, but I was really lucky that other moms, older moms, shared with me their experiences. So for example, there was one mom that she never let her daughter have sugar. And so when the daughter became 20 years old, she carries around a 5-pound bag of candy in her purse. And at that time, when I met this mom, I was trying to, raise healthy kids. I never gave them candy. I never let them chew gum. But then I realized if they don't know what gum is and other kids know what gum is, that socially puts them in a really awkward situation. If they never had candy before, I was realizing that they really covet it, and I didn't want them to think that this was so special that they would go overboard and try to get it. And I'll share with you this, that maybe it's a little embarrassing for me, but one day, a kid dropped his candy bar on the ground and my daughter rushed for it and wanted to eat it. And it was on the ground, but it's because she wanted the candy so much because I never gave her candy. And when I saw that, I realized, you know what? I really need to step back and reassess how I'm raising my children. I have really good intentions, but I also know that in the real world, I have to be realistic. I have to be practical, and to not have my daughter or my son eat candy, chips, cup of noodles. I'm not doing them. I'm not helping them really. Mm-hmm. So I allow them to eat, things like that as well.
That's amazing. Yeah, that you could reflect on that, because I was just going to ask too, was there pushback from your kids with the way you steer them? And if so, how do you deal with that? Now they're teenagers as well.
Well, with the candy and so forth, it was easy because I had control. I don't buy it. They don't know it. After they had it and they wanted it, I would indulge them, during Halloween, birthdays, things like that. Because what I didn't want them to think it was so special. And so as they get older, those things, it's not candy anymore that's so off limits. It's more like things like alcohol and things like that. So I talk to them about it, and I give examples of why we should or should not do certain things. But I do my best to expose them to things, but not encourage them in a direction I don't want them to go. So maybe this is gonna, maybe after I say this, I'm going to be stripped of my Mother of the Year award, but I did let them have a sip of beer. I did let them have a sip of alcohol. And the reason why I did that was I said, this is mom's birthday. I'm having a glass of wine. Do you want to taste it? You can have a sip. And then they sip it. They don't like it. I said, this is what it tastes like. It's not that special, is it? And they're like, no. And to this day, my daughter, she's really responsible. I never have a problem with her and wanting her to consume alcohol when she's underage. I don't have that. I don't have my son, knock on wood, with the same issues because, I give them an opportunity to see that it's not really special. Now, when it comes to drugs and things like that, I explain, well, if you do drugs, this is what's going to happen. And we have a really in-depth discussion about that. So hopefully everything works out. I think the thing that helps the most is I'm upfront and I'm honest with my children. And so because we have such a close relationship, they will take what I say to heart and I don't really get pushed back.
That's a magical talent that you have and that you were able to master, that I'm sure a lot of parents out there are wishing that, but it must have come with a lot of hard work to build that trust and to let them see that you are not there to harm them, but there to help them. Oftentimes, sometimes they could feel very defensive. How do you deal with social media and them wanting to be on screens a lot more than face-to-face interaction or real life activities?
That's a very good question. So I'm a single mom, and when I went back to work, my kids were always alone. I purchased a cell phone for each of them for security reasons, for safety reasons, because they had to catch the bus to and from school. And what happened was, because I wasn't home, they would turn to their phone for entertainment. So for example, they were in elementary school and intermediate school at this time, and it's so easy to download free games. And I started to notice that the screen time, they were getting very addicted to it. And when I would take away their phones, they would just go berserk. And so I realized, I have to stop this. I have to find another way. I think they were using the games and the phone as a way to compensate for their loneliness, their boredom. And what I did was I enrolled them in the Big Brothers Big Sisters program. That way they were able to have another positive role model, not just myself. I really feel like children need role models other than their parents. And especially for my son, I can't be a father to him. So I enrolled them in this program, and it was really fortunate that they had really good matches. And one of the requirements I asked of the program was that if they match my children with someone, please match them with someone that is very into sports, who likes the outdoors, because I knew that is what my children needed. And I was so fortunate that both their big brother and their big sister were very into sports. They like to hike, they like to do things outside. And for 4 months, 2 times a month, their big brother and big sister came and took them outdoors and did activities. And that kind of broke the cycle. I also cut my TV, so there was no TV. They couldn't watch TV. And when I was home, I would take away their phone. I would say, you know what, until you get your homework done, we're going to put away the phone. And instead, what I did was after dinner, I taught them how to play chess. And I never let them win. I was really, I'm not the type to just fake win. And one day they teamed up, the two of them, and they beat me. And when they beat me, they were so happy. They were dancing around and everything. But it was really good because it taught them that if they persevered at something and they tried their best, they could succeed. And they became really, really good chess players. And it also gave them a way for us to bond, and it broke the addiction to the screen time.
Wow. That's what I'm glad that you mentioned Big Brothers and Big Sisters, because it's a program that exists, and I never knew that. It's available for everyone. It's awesome that you turned to them and found a way to break that screen time, because so many parents struggle with that so often. And I think sometimes they look at ways to do that with money and, throwing money at that problem, and instead of Big Brothers and Big Sisters, which is a free program, right?
Yes, it's free and it's so beneficial. They actually screen their matches. So I was kind of hesitant at first when I thought about putting my children in this program, but they do a background check, and this organization has been around for a while. It's a national organization, and so that brought me a little bit of comfort. I did meet with the match beforehand, and as the years went by, especially for Jonathan's match, his big brother is named Neil. His family became my family. So when we met him, he was single. Then he got married. We went to his wedding. Then they had a baby, and we went, to the baby shower. My daughter graduated. They came to her graduation. We go over there for dinner on Christmas, and they come over to our house for Thanksgiving. I mean, they're really our family now, a part of our family.
Wow. Well,
That's beautiful.
Yeah. And I want to share with our listeners out there a little bit about you, Joy, because, the kind of person you are, we need to understand why you are this kind of person. You're a graduate of UH Manoa, and you also worked in Washington, D.C. for then U.S. Congressman Neil Abercrombie, he was the former governor as well. And you later spent 10 years in Asia, where you owned your own business in Japan and attended National Taiwan University. So that's somebody with a 5-year plan, clearly. So how did you, have this drive within you? Was that something that your parents instilled in you?
Well, I think I've always had it. I grew up in Hilo, which is a very small town, and my mom's actually from Chicago. So my grandparents were there, and sometimes I would visit them. And so I always knew that there was more to life than just remaining in Hilo, which is really a beautiful town. So I knew I wanted to see the world. And so I did everything I could to try to be able to get a job off island. And I was just really fortunate. It was just serendipitous that I was able to get a job with Congressman Abercrombie at that time. After my time in DC, I purchased a Euro pass and I went to Europe, and I traveled around Europe for 3 months on the Euro pass and stayed in hostels. And that just fueled my desire to see more of the world. And so because I have Japanese ancestry, I decided to go to Japan. The job that brought me there didn't work out. So what I did was I just decided to own my own business, and I ran an educational business in Japan. And when I came back to Hawaii, I worked for a little while, and then I thought, Japanese is a good language to learn, but the future is to learn Mandarin. And this is a long time ago. So I applied for this program in Taiwan at National Taiwan University. It's an international Chinese language program. And I sold my car, quit my job. I moved up there. I got off the airplane, took a bus to the middle of Taipei City. And from there, I only had a Lonely Planet. And I told the cab driver to take me to this hotel, which of course he didn't. He took me someplace else. The next day, I caught the bus, went to National Taiwan University. I took this test. It was a reading, writing, there was an interview, and they told me I failed. My Chinese was terrible. And I said, wait a minute. I quit my job and I sold my car. I came here to be in your program, and you're telling me I can't be in your program? And they said, yes, your Chinese is terrible. You have to have a certain level of proficiency to be in our program. So I said, give me a couple of, give me some time, give me a couple more weeks. I'll study and I will take the test again. So they said, this was in May. They said, you can take the test again in July because the classes start in August. So I taught English. I hired a Chinese teacher to teach me, and I took the test again and I passed, and then I was in their program. And once I was in their program, I graduated. I got a job working for a telecom company there, and I spent some time there, and it was a really good experience. But I had a 5-year plan for myself as well. So that's where the 5-year plan for my children comes in, because I did it for myself. Then it was just natural for me to do it for my children.
You're fearless, Joy.
Wow.
Oh, that was when I was younger.
Without kids, I know, and you could focus on your goals. And I love that you had goals and you did whatever it took to achieve it. It didn't sound like you were afraid.
At that time, I think when you're that, I was really young. I was in my 20s when I was in DC and Japan. I was in my 30s when I was in Taiwan. I didn't have children at that time, so it was a lot easier to pursue my dreams and my goals. But as a mom, and I'm older, it's still possible. I encourage everyone to make your own 5-year plan. It just takes a little bit more effort because you have more responsibilities.
And what do you speak? Can you speak to the fear of failure? Because I think, well, my kids are it's just innate in them. Like, they don't know, and they're afraid to fail. Do you see that, or have you heard the fear of failure? And how would you answer that or comfort?
I know my children. When they compete, nobody wants to lose, but I always tell them. And this is kind of hard because, of course, when you lose, they're not in a good mood. They don't want to be talked to or anything. But when we have some time, I always say, I'm just proud that you got on the mat, because it takes a lot of courage to get on that mat and to try to win. And I said, even if you're down a point or two and you feel like giving up, I said, you don't give up until that bell rings or the timer goes off. You fight until the very end. And I said, you don't see mom giving up. And they have seen firsthand the struggles that I have gone through as a single mom. There was a time where I was a stay-at-home mom for 10 years, and then I got a divorce. And I was a stay-at-home mom before there were iPhones, so I'm dating myself. But when I went back into the workforce, there were iPhones now. So technology had changed to such an extent that when they would give me the computer test, I would fail. So in the beginning, I was only able to get jobs. Nobody would hire me. I was only able to get cleaning jobs. So I worked 3 cleaning jobs, day and night, around the clock. And then I was able to eventually get other jobs. But they saw how hard I worked. I would take them when, because they're so young, I would take them when I went to clean. And I think that they've seen that despite all the hardships we've been through, I've never given up. And I told them I would never give up on you. So you have to do your part. Don't give up on yourself.
Wow. Jeez, Joy.
Powerful.
Wow. Very, very, you're an inspiration. And I think they did a good job, looking for the mom of the year in Hawaii and finding you, because you definitely are the mom of the year. And so we want to tell people listening also that you're going to be representing Hawaii at the American Mothers National Convention. That's coming up in April in Omaha, Nebraska. Is there anything special that you have to do, like give a presentation in front of the judges?
I know we went through an interview process on Zoom, and they also sent me some more questions, and I had to answer that and submit that as well. When we go to the national convention in April, we're allowed to give a 2-minute speech. And I think from all the information they collect from our interview, from the questions that we answered, and from our speech, I think that's how they're going to choose who's the National Mother of the Year.
Yeah, wow. Are you already preparing for that?
Well, it's still a little early, and I'm so busy with work and just taking care of my son. I don't really think about it too much.
That's
but I hope but I hope to represent. So thank you.
Yes,
yeah, 100%.
We're so proud. We're so proud to represent Hawaii, and we wish you all the best. Well, when April comes around and that convention, we'll be rooting for you till the very end. Thank you so much for sharing with us all about your journey, where you've been, tips to raising your kids. And even as a single mom, you're proof that you can still do it and have your kids be successful. That's just so amazing.
And get along with them too, right? As adults. That's amazing. Yes. You're an inspiration to all of us, mothers, fathers out there.
Yeah.
Good luck. Thank you. Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you, Noli.
Yeah, thank you so much, Joy. Mother of the Year.
Yes.
Way to represent Hawaii. Thanks so much, Joy.
Absolutely.
Yeah.